Greetings, this is Doug, the Eclipse guy again, with another fascinating video on our favorite subject, Epicor Eclipse. Everybody's favorite software, that's right, all the kids are getting one this Christmas. And aren't they going to be happy kids? This video is going to cover the basics of the pricing matrix. If you've ever been in sales order entry and wondered how on earth what dark magic happens behind the scenes in order for Eclipse to come up with the suggested selling price on a sales order, this will help demystify some of it. Now, in this particular video, we're going to talk just about the pricing matrix, which is the first level of pricing that really comes into play, and there will be other videos that will talk about customer contracts and rebates that would overwrite the pricing classes. So without further ado, we will get started, and we will start off with some entries from the Big Book of Eclipse. Now, I'm sure everybody knows this, but in case for some strange reason you've been hit over the head or for something or other, you know that the Eclipse manual that explains all the parts of Eclipse and how to do whatever is built in to an online searchable manual, which can be accessible by hitting the F11 anywhere you are. It tends to be context specific, so if you're in a region and pull up the manual, with some luck, it'll actually pull it out to the section that might be relevant to what you're doing. Or you can also click on the question mark and get the help home page. As far as I know, I am the only one that has ever actually read this manual. I'm not even sure even I've read through all of it. It is dense. It is sometimes complex. It is often convoluted. But if you are patient and you read thoroughly and you follow the hyperlinks and you do a little testing, you can figure it out. There hasn't been anything that I've ever done in 17 years of Eclipse that wasn't in the manual somewhere. More often than not, if I was having a problem, it was because I wasn't understanding what they were telling me. But it's actually a pretty well-written book, but it's very verbose, so you're going to be doing a lot of reading. Luckily, it does have a few pictures. And in this case, here is a picture of the pricing matrix and an overview of what a pricing matrix how it works. So you can think of it as a grid, like the multiplication tables that we used to do in grade school, which I guess kids are doing new math now, so multiplication doesn't exist, or it has 102 genders, I don't know what. And so, grid, X and Y, and of course, well, everything in Eclipse probably has a three-dimensional aspect to it. Yeah, probably does, as they see here. But the simplest pricing matrix is going to, you will have a pricing class that you assign your customers to. You will have a cell group that you assign your products to. When the customer that's assigned a pricing class matches up to a product that has a pricing group, there will be a formula in the matrix that the Eclipse will use in order to arrive at the price that is going to be on the sales order. Or maybe made a little bit differently, hopefully simpler. So products grouped here, customers grouped there, the two combined, there's a formula at that cell, the formula is applied, and you get that in the order. Okay, so there are some parameters that that also get applied to. Anyway, we'll go through all of it here in a sec. So for an example, let's take a look at a test customer record here. And spinny spinny, and it comes up on the rock screen. Okay. So I'm going to use my test customers that I have entered in here and my COD customer. All right, and under pricing here, and we see that this customer has been assigned a default price class of small. Now, keeping in mind that with customer records, you can quite often, if you have a complex customer, you'll have a bill to, the general account, and then you will have ship tos, which are jobs within the account. The whole reason for doing that is different jobs might have a different type of parts. They may have negotiated special pricing for the duration of that particular project. It may have a lien on the job to make sure that the wholesaler gets paid. There might be rebates that are applied. And so by having a general account and then creating a ship to, a job account for each job as it comes up, it allows for a much more complex pricing scheme in Eclipse. As we know, this is probably being kind of redundant for you all that have been around for a while. Wholesale distribution does not work like your grocery store. If you go to a grocery store and you buy a bottle of ketchup and it says 99 cents on the shelf and you stand in line, you're going to pay 99 cents. And the other 15 people behind you that also bought the same bottle of ketchup, because, hey, I guess it's on sale that day, all get the same price. Unless, of course, there's a coupon. Does anyone do coupons anymore? With distribution, very, very different. Very complicated shell game being played there. So you might have 100 customers, and you might be selling that quote-unquote bottle of ketchup for 100 different prices. Or a customer that you sell the same bottle of ketchup to, but for a different price depending on whether they buy 1 or 10 or 50. Or if they buy 1 on the general account, or 1 on a different job account, and a third one on another job, a ship to, that's got a rebate on it. So I won't get into the details of the why that happens. It has something to, honestly, it could be argued that you do this because some customers are more high touch and you have to charge more. Or it might be the type of products that require a lot more sensitivity and time sensitive, and so it costs you more to service that particular customer job, and so you have to adjust the prices accordingly to make it worth your while. But honestly, from the way I've seen it over the days, electrical wholesaling, at least a counter sale, looks an awful lot like playing some type of game of poker or bluff. What it is. But hey, that's capitalism. I suppose wholesale distribution is kind of capitalism in its purest form. Basically a negotiation between you got the part, what's the price? And you retorting back is, well, I got the part, how much you got? And reality somewhere between the two. Anyway. So the price class is assigned to the customer record. How are price classes created? Why on earth does it say small? You can come up with any number of names that you want. For some strange reason, price classes are a little quirky in that they have to be modified in control maintenance. For anyone that's not familiar with control maintenance, and I can't imagine how you couldn't be, you have Eclipse and its code, and then you have ways that the code changes its behavior with settings in the control maintenance file, which is another section in the universe database that keeps a set of parameters, and when you go to do something, the Eclipse goes and checks that database, it looks for the parameter that's valid, and alters its behavior accordingly. So pretty fancy way, considering 1988, of being able to dramatically change the behavior of the program without having to recode it. And that has allowed Eclipse to endure for 33 plus years now, because it is so darn flexible with the parameters and the control maintenance. So we're looking for the control maintenance parameter, blah blah blah. Here it is, valid customer price classes. Alright, so this is our system. Our system will be set up completely different from the system that you're going to be working with, but the same things still apply. You're going to have classes, they're going to have a name that will be entered in this control maintenance here. Our system well, the default ones it comes with is 1 through, say, 99, which I find less than terribly informative or useful, so we created our own: small, medium, large, super large, and branch. And security levels are applied to that, and I'm not entirely sure, but it probably applies in this one, is you have authorization keys that are set up in a user account for an Eclipse user. Within those authorization keys, there's also levels. This allows you to, in a lot of cases, restrict certain levels of information that you don't want that particular user to have. Say, junior counter salesman, for some strange reason, maybe you don't want them to be able to see a certain price matrix. So he'd be on a different level from this, and so he wouldn't be able to access it. At least, that's how it works in some things. It's quite often the levels come into apply when trying to mask out your true costs from your salesman, so as the argument goes, so they don't give away the farm. So that's what the level is here. But anyway, you can come up with your own naming scheme. Your system is going to be different than ours. So anyway, that's where it's at: control maintenance. Alright, now moving ahead to products, the other side of the XY matrix. And let's see if we can find a Leviton product. I love to pick on Leviton. Big company, and they deserve your contempt. No, the Leviton's a pretty good company. Alright, so here we have a product record. As we said, customers assigned to price classes based on their buying habits. And products are set into buy and sell groups based on suggestions from catalog services and the manufacturer, or your own experience depending on your particular market. And let's see here, if we go into pricing and price groups, and yeah, it's you'd think they would have found a simpler place to put it. Okay, so in this one, this particular product, this Leviton cord connector, has been assigned to the cell group that it won't make a lot of sense right now, but the cell group is named 50, 40, 30, 20. I guarantee your cell group names are going to look very, very different than the ones I'm using, and not a surprise, but I'll explain why I did what I did in this system later. Now you'll also notice a couple other groups, buy groups and rebate groups. As far as I know, Eclipse is the only ERP accounting type product I've ever seen that you can create a cell group matrix. That is how the system is going to calculate the pricing that you sell the product to your customer for, and you can also create a buy group matrix. To be able to take published pricing, like a manufacturer advertised price from a catalog service like Trade Service, and apply a formula to it to get accurate buying prices. I've never seen anyone be able to actually make that work, because the pricing in the catalog services is always too stale, and you always got special negotiations, or you're kind of, be honest, you're doing a little weasel stuff on the side, and probably, getting a special kickback rebate on a job that you're supposed to be selling to, but you're buying it into stock. Haha, yeah, everybody's figured out that trick. But anyway, that is available, and also rebate grouping for creating a rebate system where you have a cost override, and you're sending a quarterly report or a monthly report to your vendor or vendor rep, so that you get a nice check kickback on the as lower the cost of the part to so that you actually made a higher profit than what it initially showed as. Anyway, so that is where the cell group is in the product. And there's a bunch of other parameters there. We're not going to get into it. This is not going to be an extremely detailed price matrix. This is just the basis, because it's a late evening, and I don't feel like talking for 2 hours. Anyway, for historical purposes, I shall say that you can see in this record here you have this commodity code. And in the good old days of trade service, you had all of your electrical and lighting supplies and such. A trade service would assign a commodity code. I think that comes from some international standards or U.S. standards committee. There's a big book of commodity codes. And they would assign the particular part, the commodity code that seemed to apply. And so in some older systems, you might see the cell groups and the matrix built around the commodity codes, which made sense at a certain time period, but that creates a super complicated matrix with, you could possibly have 1,500 commodity codes, and it makes the matrix completely unmaintainable, not to mention the fact that over the years, at least trade service got a little lazy with the commodity codes and didn't quite group everything quite as well as what made sense to me. You could possibly find a light bulb and a circuit breaker in the same commodity code. And honestly, I've not worked in a market that really needed a complex matrix of grouping your parts 1,500 ways. Honestly, simplicity is best. When you're creating a matrix, there is really super complicated stuff you could do. I swear, Eclipse is sophisticated enough you could set up a product that gets sold at a certain price only on Thursdays to a particular customer, only if he had blue hair, unless he buys 2 of them. I mean, I'm not sure there's a limit to just how crazy you can get with a matrix. The crazier you get, the harder your life will become trying to maintain that matrix. And if you do not want to become an alcoholic or pull all of your hair out, I suggest a simpler matrix will do just fine. A couple basis points here and there isn't going to make that much of a difference compared to the amount of hours and hours and hours you're going to spend trying to fix a complicated matrix or try and maintain such a thing. So I suggest simplicity, but what do I know? I'm just the guy that's run Eclipse for 17 years. by no stretch am I a super genius. Ask my bosses. So anyway, so as I was saying, blah 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 blah. It's not unusual. Old systems, the product cell groups might be the commodity code or something like that, or you might have created your own in-house. Hard to say. Or if using a different catalog service, they might have a different type of product grouping that they use. Anyway, there's nothing that prevents you from getting creative and grouping your parts your own particular ways. So there's that. All right. Now, you don't have to do control maintenance to do the pricing groups. And all right, so this should be under maintenance, and it should be price maintenance, and it should be by cell group maintenance. Where the heck is there? It is. All right, so yeah, we don't have to go into the control file to do that one. And as I said, we used a very simple matrix here because we have very simple pricing where we're at. So I've only got about 10 or so different parameters, and most of them are not necessary. Miscellaneous is a catch-all. But most of my matrix really is almost everything's grouped into 5 different categories, and this being the main one. So here is the group ID, and now you're starting to see the where the name came from, 50, 40, 30, 20. And my description, there's limits there, but it's small, medium, large, super large. All right, so the reason why I named them this way, so I could see exactly the margins that each of my 4 customer groups are going to get with that grouping. So it was just a quick, easy, down and dirty way of me seeing immediately what am I applying to that part and how the margin is going to break out without me having to get into the matrix to look at it. So that worked nicely for me. What you do may vary. As you can see, creating a by cell group is pretty Pretty simple to create there. Honestly, I have never used any of these other fields here that would be used. Mostly these are for reporting purposes, and so they're not strictly necessary in order for things to work. If you're obsessive with your reporting, then by all means make use of them. And now for a journey of discovery into the actual where the magic happens, and that is the matrix. There are a couple of different tools for looking at the matrix, but the one that's used most heavily is the quick cell matrix, because it's pretty much got all the goodies you need in it in one spot. So we use the quick cell matrix, and come on, VPN connection, come on. Yep, there we go, and of course on the wrong screen again. All right, over here. So here's our matrix. Now, with the quick cell matrix, it can get a little confusing because it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You can kind of turn it a bunch of different ways in different dimensions and see what you're going to see, but in different ways. So let's see here. So if we arranged it by, let's take a look at by price class. Effective and expiration dates are very, very important. Generally on the normal price class matrices, you're not going to have an expiration date, but sometimes you'll want to change your pricing across your whole system with all of your customers. I mean, that does happen occasionally. If for some strange reason you may decide that you want to go into effect a month from now, and so you could set up effective expiration dates, and a month from now when that date happens, the new matrix will apply, which is a pretty cool thing. That's used more for contracts though than a normal price class group. Alright, so let's go in here. Okay, so if you were a small customer looking at the matrix this way around, these are the types of formulas that would apply for the grouping of parts, right? Each one of these cells here is going to be how the parts are grouped. So here's our favorite 50, 40, 30, 20, and we have 45, 40, blah, blah, blah. And so what you'll see is the markup that's applied for the margin that we're trying to get, and what the pricing basis is. Now, I did not start from a warehouse distribution thing, and I'm bad at math, and I'm also a little dyslexic. And I have been embarrassed that the first few months when I was fiddling around with the cell matrix, I gacked up the pricing formulas very, very badly because I got gross markup confused with gross margins, percentage profit, and big no-no. And also the price basis is a big catch too. So what is the price basis? This it is the short answer. All right, so we have to go back to a product and take a look at some of this. So yeah, all right, let me go. I mean, there's 10 different ways I could say this. I think this is probably the straightforward one, so we'll go back to that product we were looking at before, and if we go to pricing and look at our price sheet, this is in the record where the pricing information is loaded and routinely updated. In a perfect world, you've got really, really good vendor and vendor reps, and Johnny on the spot right ahead of time, they give you spreadsheets with all the information you have, and you do an automatic price update process, and you update the pricing on your products so that all of your vendor invoices match up, and you're not selling products for less than you paid for them, which I'm not a business owner. And capitalism kind of confuses me sometimes, but I believe somewhere selling something for less than what you paid for it is the opposite of what you want to do when you're in business. But don't quote me. Anyway, so price sheet. So here we see columns of pricings. here that you would routinely enter in, and the date that they went into effect. So we see the most current one, how they carry over. So in this particular product, we buy it per 100. The current pricing, updated as of 8/16/2023, is $275.83 as the purchase price, the actual cost that we buy it from. Now, what are these other columns for, right? That's the only important one. And why aren't we just basing everything on purchase? Well, that's complicated. Depends on how your system's set up and the methodology that management is using. But at least in the systems that I've worked with, the purchase cost that is put in there is strictly just for the purchase order to the vendor. And we try and keep that accurate. Okay. Sometimes you might have a list price column, because maybe list pricing, if you got a catalog service you're dealing with, is easier to work with, and you're doing a percentage off list price, that type of thing. Rebate price, I put that in this system when I set it up. Honestly, we never use that column. Here is where the real magic is, and every company will call this something different, but I bet you're all using it. And in this particular place, this was a holdover from the old array system that I was using back in 2000, and that was calculated cost. So the argument behind that is, it's also referred to as commission cost, you could think of. So what you're paying commissions on. Now, why don't these match up? The argument is that if you've got a really good purchasing department and they're shrewd negotiators, there's a lot of products that they'll be able to get into the warehouse that they're buying for at least temporarily below market costs. When you're a distributor, you're always trying to claw for every penny of profit, because it's that tug of war, that poker game between what the customer is willing to pay, what you have to be able to sell it for to make it worth your while, and all the competition that makes things a bloody nightmare to try and stay in business. So quite often, if you're able to negotiate a special price, and especially if that price is only for a couple of months, you don't want to pass that savings off, or you don't want to pass it completely to the customer, because then you've polluted your market. If they were used to selling something for $1, and just for some strange reason you got a special killer deal, and normally you buy it for 60 cents, and this time you got it for 40 cents, you lower that price down to like 80 cents or so, and now from that point onward, that customer wants that 80 cents and not that $1. And trying to claw that margin back up again when that hot price goes away is going to be really, really difficult. So in a lot of cases, you do the kind of Weasley thing, and you bury that little special deal, and that money drops right to the bottom line, as a boss of mine was fond of saying quite often. Also, there might be additional charges like freight expenses, and you want to recapture the costs of having to do the freight expenses to that particular vendor, and you might kind of embed that into the calculated cost or commission cost field, that type of thing. Or, as I'm used to seeing more often than not, is I hear this all the time from people who run distributors, which is, in quotation marks, my salesmen are all idiots. If I wasn't watching them like a hawk and yelling at them, they'd give away the entire farm to all their buddies, and we'd have to go bankrupt. And so blah blah blah. We set up the pricing matrix, but then we lie about how much we're actually purchasing, and purchasing the item for. And so we just we embed a whole 20% in, so even if the assholes at the counter mark it down to 7% because they're buddy, they don't know that there's another 20% hidden in there, and we're still doing okay. That's what I'm used to seeing. I hate it. I don't like it. I think lying to your salesman is a bad idea. If you want them to play good poker, they got to know how the game's laid out. I am not a owner of a distribution business, so my opinion doesn't really thoroughly count, but I always think honesty is the best policy, and rather than doing weaselly shit with your employees, being honest with them and doing good management is better than doing little tricks in the software. But blah blah blah, that's me. I don't live in a mansion or drive a Rolls Royce. So take my opinion for what it's worth when you're trying to make money. Now, as I said, in your system, you might have a whole different set of names that you're using in your price sheet maintenance. And how does that come to be? All right, so let's go ahead and close that. And we'll leave that gobbledygook open. And let's go over here to price lines. So price lines and buy lines, which are mirror images of the same thing, but for some strange reason, as Clips was developed there, they don't put them in the same places on the menu, and they're not exactly the same, and it drives me a little cray-cray, but hey, what do you expect from 33-year-old plus software? So price line. Every time you have a vendor, you have to create a price line and a buy line, so you can do your purchasing and group your products and all that good stuff, and for reporting purposes. And the price line maintenance looks like this, and I'm going to pick on my favorite, which is 3M. For some strange reason, it's always the first one that comes out on the list. Okay, so embedded in the code of Eclipse are the pricing and what the programs are used to calling the names of them internally. But you can change the names of them in their system as they're presented to the user to make it more sensible for you. And you can also assign which one of these internal numbers map to these external names. Once again, viewing levels, as I said here before. So in our particular system, we used rebate perch calc, and we left average cost and last cost, I think, alone, because they're based in the system. And then we have these mappings as what's what. And here we see internally, the program is used to calling this a commission cost, and here we change the name to calc. When you decide upon a naming system for your pricing in your system, do not alter it from price line to price line. If you set 3M this way, set up Leviton this way. So all of these price lines should use the same basis, the same view level, or all that good stuff. Or if you want to drive your employees completely batshit insane, then be inconsistent. Being erratic will definitely endear you to the hearts of your employees. Yeah, no, don't do it. Be consistent on your naming. So, as we go through here, I better darn well, now that I said it, be able to look at every one of these and see same names, same bases, same assignments, and over and over and over. So back to matrix. So as we said, using the quick sell matrix from this angle, and I said I want to focus on what's the pricing for all customers that are the price class small, and then it arranges and shows me each cell group of products and what the formula is going to be. Now, as I said, pricing formulas. Now that you know where the basis came in, and in this case, we said that this is, you don't have to use these bases. I mean, you could have any type of formulas in there. Now that you know the names in your price line maintenance that your system might be using, you can use any of those prices. I mean, maybe you want to base it on purchase and not commission cost. Maybe you want to do it as a discount off of the map, the list price. Maybe you there's but you have to go into the price line maintenance to see what your bases are, so you're doing the formulas off the numbers you think you are. So in this case, we're doing calc, which we said is not really the purchase cost. It's an invented number, but hopefully in most cases it's the same. And then we have our formula, and there's a lot of different ways of doing a formula here. So these numbers look a little kooky, but they make sense once you actually do some calculations here. So as I said, when I first started, when I first started, I got confused on markup and gross margin, and so it would be really, really handy for you if you find a tool like this one I found years ago, the gross profit margin calculator. There's websites that have this tool. You can invent your own, or you can, if you have to, you can go use formulas in an Excel spreadsheet to figure this out. But this allows us to figure out what number we need to plug in to get the profit margin that we wanted. So in this case, we're just using $1 as a round number, and let's see here. This is small, and we're saying for grouping of parts, small looks like it's 30, 25, 2015. So I want a 30% margin. Looks like. Let me go back to this. So okay, so I put in .30, and okay, so it says if I want a profit margin of 30%, then the markup is 42.86, and lo and behold, that's the pricing formula we have there. So that should explain why you're seeing what you're seeing here. Hopefully 35% is a markup formula of 53.85. This is where most of our at, and of course a 50% markup or a 50% margin is going to be markup 100%. So hopefully that demystifies, and if you need to, you can look up on the internet and find pricing formulas like this, which are a little convoluted. You can plug into Excel and create your own tools for markups, discounts, and formulas, etc., as you see here. So margins and markups, fairly simple formulas. Sometimes they get a little twisted when you want to get it in an exact representation, like a percentage, or you have to maybe add 100% or subtract it by 1 or whichever. But yeah, it's not too hard. It's business math. But be careful that you're using markups and not margins. All right, and so we see here on this little legend here what I was trying to explain in the matrix, which is the groupings of the customers according to the cell group pricing. All right, what else do we see here? You'll notice when these are entered, these defined cells, you see a asterisk there in the front that says that's a group. You could put in a matrix just for a specific part if you wanted. I wouldn't suggest it. But this tool is also used for contract and rebates, and in those cases you probably would be using an exact product, so keep in mind. And looking at some of these other fields, we have a type here. This is whether or not this matrix has a price quantity break on it, and there's all different types of things you can do. That, one price if you're buying 1, another price if you're buying 5, another price if you're buying 100. All that can be done in the matrix. I don't do that stuff. I haven't worked for people that did. It's not that hard, but that's what that type is. The basis, as we said, that's the whatever price that's been entered in the price sheet. This is going to be used for the basis of the calculation. This is markup, not margin. Quantity and unit of measure, which would apply if you're doing price breaks. Effective and expiration date. And you'll see funny expiration dates like 99. That's just a way of saying it never expires. It's 9999. And if you're still in business in the year 9999, woohoo! Give yourself a pat on the back. That's pretty amazing. Anyway, and you can see here we started configuring the system in 2017. Boy, a lot has changed in those years. The price line field, I've never used that. That's mainly for reporting and grouping, so not strictly necessary. So in a normal world, you go into Quick Cell Matrix, you make your formula adjustments, maybe change your effective prices, you do update, and you save it, which we're not going to do. We're not going to change anything. So let's look at this another way around. And so let's flip the Rubik's Cube the other way around and look at it by cell group. All right, so this is One was looking at it from the customer's point of view. The other way is looking at the matrix from the product's point of view. So say for every product that's grouped in the group 50, 40, 30, 20, what's the formula to the different customers? And here we have large, medium, small, super large, and here's our margins we can see here. So yeah, 50%, 40%, 30%, 20%. There are a lot of different ways of doing this formula, but generally just plus the cost plus a markup of 42.86. That's how that reads. In the big book of Eclipse, it will explain different ways of constructing the formula if you want to be creative. I'm not very creative. I'm lazy, so the simpler I can make this, the better. Anyway, so that's how you knit together. You've grouped the customers into a pricing class. You've grouped your products into cell groups. You have gone into quick cell matrix and you've applied the formula based on whatever price basis that you've wanted to do. You've set your effective and expiration date, updated it, saved, and you're done. And now let's take a look at how that looks in the sales order. Alright, so sales order entry, and we're going to use our test customer, and we're going to do our COD test customer, and we're going to do a new order. Blardy blar, and we're going to spin around because the system's being slow this evening. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take one of our test products. Hopefully Zprod. Oops, sorry. Quantity 1. Sorry, it's been a long day. Alright, so we're going to do our Z product, stock test product, of which we've got 5 in branch 2, so that's a good one. Alright, now if you have the right authorization keys to access particular views, you would be able to see this audit pricing, which is my default view right now. And so it's telling me the basis price that it was based on, the formula that it used, and the price it came up to, and the margin that it's expecting to have. This is a little kooky. This is showing this this particular template wasn't quite set right, so it's showing me the real GP based on the real purchase price and not on the calc price. In your system and using a different template, it's not gonna show the for real GP. It's gonna show the GP as based on the calc cost. So my system is being a little pissy today, so of course it's putting the different views that I have available on a different screen that I'm not recording. But anyway, if you click on this magnifying glass, you'll get a drop-down list of a bunch of different ways of changing your views in order to be able to figure out what the heck's going on. And one of those is formula unit price, which you are already seeing in my default view, but a normal sales order, a normal counter salesman or inside salesman wouldn't have that view. They'd have a different default view that's hiding the formulas. But you would see that. This is helpful for auditing your pricing matrix and making sure that it's coming up with the pricing that you're expecting to find. Audit pricing. Okay, here's giving. Okay, why did it come up with it? Because it's saying that this test customer Zcus COD is price class small, and that the cell group that this item is in is 50, 40, 30, 20, and that there's no quantity break, just one per each. So these couple of tools within the sales order entry will help you to decipher what the heck's going on in your matrix and do refinements if things go a little wonk. So when you go about the process of embarking on creating a price matrix, you do not want to go into this blind. If you're doing tweaks, you need to be looking at in a sensible way. And this is kind of going to be a collaborative effort, probably between you and management and what they're hoping to expect to see. Maybe your vice president of sales or the senior outside salesman, that type of thing, to give you some better ideas for market conditions. And of course, Eclipse is nothing but crazy with all kinds of reports in any way you could possibly think of. And there's a few of them that will help you sort out and group your customers and your products in order to try and get a clear-cut idea of where you're trying to go. Walking into something informed, hell of a lot better than just making a wild-ass guess. Well, there was a time some years ago when I remember my uncle just walked in my office one day and said, just raise the prices on everybody 2%. And I went, are you insane? And we did it. Surprisingly, no one noticed. Go figure. Of course, times have changed. People are a little more sensitive now. So some of these useful reports, without getting into creative shit with Report Writer, are here under Reports and... hold on. And these are the end of month's reports, and probably end of month's reports number 2. Aren't they clever with that naming? So probably something like a looking at customer reports and doing a customer sales ranking report or a customer sales comparison report will give you some idea of how your customers reporting performing. And whether or not you've got customers classified correctly. And let's see, I think I ran those reports, so I won't get into detail. Customer sales ranking. Okay, so here's a quick view of what some of that might look like. So you get some month-to-day sales, GP percentages, year-to-date sales. So this is a nice. This is a nice report that gives you some useful information. Let's see here. There's a customer sales comparison report. I don't think I ran that one, but that'll compare how they're doing now to a certain amount of time last year. And so you can see are they buying more from you, and do you want to reward them for that? Which is not a bad idea if you want to keep them. Then looking at things from a product sales perspective, you can run the product sales report and get some information on the buying habits of particular customers so that you can price things that they more commonly buy intelligently. And here's an example of a product sales detail, which will show an invoice, what they bought, what kind of costs and margins that you're getting out of this. And so if you really want to get granular and look into your customers and tweak them accordingly, this would be more useful if you're creating contracts. Useful information, of course. Really in this format, it's really not terribly useful, so you want to export it out in a spreadsheet and slice and dice it. I of course have programs I've written over the years that allow me to convert into Excel spreadsheets painlessly. If you have to do it with an import, you're probably going to hate life, but the information's in there, and those reports are very, very useful for classifying your customers. And of course figuring out your product classifications too. And then sometimes you want to look at it from another perspective entirely. So maybe you're trying to figure out the market for a product and whether or not you're keeping in tune with the market. So say a Leviton light switch, maybe you want to take a look at a certain model light switch and see how much historically your salesmen are selling it to all of your customers, and get a good idea of maybe the particular part itself needs to be classified in a different way, put in a different cell group that's more appropriate. If you do what I do, you go through all this time to create a wonderful little matrix, and you think you're doing it pretty good, and then you run sales reports and you take a look at the pricing, and you get these little asterisks which shows in the reports overrides, and you find that if the damn salesman is selling 10 products, they're doing pricing overrides on 9 of them, and you go "Urgh!" and no one ever wants to go back to the matrix and clean that up. But that's life of the IT guy / pricing guy, etc., etc. Anyway, that is pretty much it on the basics of the pricing matrix. We'll get into another video that's going to be contracts, which will probably be shorter since there was a bit of theory I had to put in here and some snarky commentary. As usual, I expected this would be 30 minutes long, and it's now 50, so I'll cut it right there. Thank you, Eclipse users, for your time and attention, and have a wonderful day, evening, or whatever diannual calendar scheduling, whatever thing you do. This has been Doug, and good night.